Hey, what's going on, guys? Felix here from the Shopify Masters Podcast and Podcasting Secrets. And today we'll talk to you about why I don't listen to too many podcasts. So a lot of times whenever anyone finds out that I run a podcast, their immediate question to me, tell us more about what are your favorite episodes. And I'm often embarrassed because, or used to at least be embarrassed because I used to tell them that I actually don't listen to too many podcasts, or I don't really spend my time listening to podcasts at all. And now that I don't listen to too many different types, I just don't listen to too many. And I feel like I should be, right? Because I run a podcast for many, many years. I am teaching people how to podcast. Shouldn't I consume more podcasts? And what I was learning was that what I used to think I cared about was that I cared about consuming knowledge, right? Consuming information, consuming content. That's what I thought I cared about. But then what I realized is what I truly care about is getting results from the information that I was consuming. And oftentimes most of the time that means that the information itself is not actually what is valuable, but what is actually valuable to me is executing, right? Executing the information that I actually learned was what's important to me. But what I was learning was that as I was consuming more and more information, it wasn't actually causing me to act more. It wasn't actually causing me to get more results from the kind of podcast I was listening to, because I care a lot about business, entrepreneurship, marketing. I wasn't seeing results there, even though I was consuming more and more content, even though I was subscribing to more and more podcasts, even though I was listening to podcasts at 2x speed and pushing as much information to my head as possible. It wasn't giving me the results that I was looking for. What I realized was that the more information I got, the more likely I was to paralyze myself, the more likely I was to freeze myself from taking action. So what I learned throughout this process was that the big kind of thing I learned, a big epiphany, was that I need to go on information diet. I need to stop consuming so much information and instead let my actions catch up to my knowledge. So rather than thinking that I need more knowledge before I can take the next step, I started realizing to myself, like, hey, what if I actually already know everything I need to know to take at least the very next step, maybe the next couple steps. So that's what happened. I stopped consuming so much information. I stopped downloading podcasts. I deleted podcast subscriptions from my phone and just didn't consume any podcasts, and then just focus on executing what I already learned. So that was the kind of big the big achievement for me, was that I was actually being less stressed, for sure. I was spending more time executing, and I was seeing more results by actually consuming less information. And that's kind of the big transformation for me, was I realized that knowledge is not actually power for me. Knowledge is actually paralyzing. Knowledge actually stops me from being powerful, from being empowered. What gets me empowered, what gives me power, what makes me powerful is actually action. And a lot of times that means less information means you are more likely to act, because you won't spend so much time debating what information you should take action on. And instead, if you have less information to work off of, you're more, at least for my case, I'm more likely to go 100%. So what I do now is I only consume information that's actually going to help me take the very, very next step, or it's going to motivate me to stay on the path that I'm on. So those are the two big things. Motivation is a really important thing for me to keep on trucking along. And the second thing is actually information and help me take the next step. If it's something I can see me taking down the road, I'm trying to get better and better at not learning that stuff. Even if it's something that I can see myself taking, an action that I need to take 3 steps from now, if it's not information that's actually helping me solve the problem that's right in front of me, I try hard. I'm trying to get better at just cutting that out. Like, don't consume it right now. Maybe, buy the book, buy the course, whatever, but stash it aside until it comes time for it. But don't waste my time consuming it. So again, only consume information that actually helps you take that very next step. And so for a lot of you, if you're thinking about starting a podcast, and if your very next step is actually just to launch it, I think a big question is, like, where do I even begin? Like, how do I even get started? Like, where do I take that very first step? And if that's your first step, I'm launching my podcast from scratch course very, very soon. If you're interested, and if you feel like that's your very next step, don't spend time consuming information on how to grow your podcast, how to monetize it. That's not where you're at yet. What you want to focus on is how to launch a podcast from scratch, and that's what the course is going to be about. If you want to learn more about it, you want to hear about the course when it goes live, make sure to go podcastingsecrets.co and sign up to hear more when it goes live. All right, guys, take care. Hopefully it helps you out. Bye-bye.